Hey everyone, we did we did the war genre, and we did an adaptation of Pezet. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. It was a play written by Marcy Sheriff back in 1922, I believe, and that was a couple of years after the war. It's been reproduced on Broadway hundreds and hundreds of times. It's classic, it's iconic. It explores really interesting the internal politics of like command chains and all and stuff like that. But it hasn't really been made into a film before. So why did we adapt it instead of making our own story? Well, unfortunately, we're all 18-something white kids who have no idea what war's like. So really, could we be insightful and measure this properly, treat it with the respect it deserves? We didn't know. But also, we knew Journey's End worked somewhere else, and being able to prove that the film worked somewhere, the play worked somewhere else, made us more confident in the film we had. It made our actors more confident. They were familiar with the project, and it gave us an authority we didn't have. If we wrote our own script, no one would really know much about it. Anyway, so how we would advertise. There are lots of different ways to advertise thanks to the internet. You don't have to put it up. Yeah, so we have tons and tons of avenues to advertise. You have Facebook, you have Twitter. Go like it on your Bebo page if you want. But you can really find the communities that are into this stuff a lot more easily, and find those niche markets and really get them rolling, get them talking about it. And thanks to the internet, you don't need to buy a big billboard and spend a lot of money, hoping that someone driving along the road will like, a war play that's been turned into a movie. Instead, we can go to warbooks that are now movies.com and put up a cheaper ad there and know that everyone on that website is interested in our films.
Right, yeah, so with advertising, we'll probably do some publicity stunts as well, which I think would be quite important for our film, as they're a good way to get the word out. Here, this is just some, I think it was
Resident Evil, yeah. So at the theatre of one of their premieres, they had this event where they gathered everyone outside, and then a bunch of armed, actors came outside, acting as if they were being attacked by zombies, and they ushered everyone inside and locked the doors behind them. And that's kind of where, from that idea, you kind of got you were inspired to come up with publicity ads with the song thing.
Yeah, so we've got like two publicity stunts we're doing in mind. One would be, we'd sort of recreate like a small snippet of the trenches, maybe in a field in Buckinghamshire or somewhere, and then just have a look around, see what life's like in the trenches. But also we were thinking about doing maybe a sort of leaving parade for a World War I battalion, so get loads of World War I reenactors to march through a closed-off street in London with all the banners unfurled, just to basically draw up some awareness for the film.
Yeah, and it is an adaptation, so it is an established brand, so we can abuse that as much as these shows abuse their established brand as well. Yeah, that's just some examples. There's nothing really more to say than I'm going to put that.
Audience. Our initial primary audience is what I call the BBC Two audience, because it's the people who, instead of watching the final of The Voice on BBC One, are instead watching a documentary on sewer rats in London. So basically, yeah, that audience, they're usually over 30, but because they are usually over 30, let's be honest. But our audience is mostly male, because it's obviously a war film, first of all, so that attracts a lot of male viewers. But at the same time, we don't have any women characters throughout the entire book, we did check. But that's purely because in World War I, there wasn't much call for women, well, we were band in the army, so with one notable exception. Yeah, I'm not going to go into that one. But yeah, so there's no.
These are just some pictures of the trench idea we had. What they did in some parts of London during the First World War is they would practice making trenches, and basically we could recreate that then and have people walk around. It's quite expensive.
That's good. That's good. This is a video from an event so this is sort of what dress people up and march around. So it looks like it really is the First World War. This is what some people did in London. They dressed up as zombies and walked around and generally looks very stupid. Right. This is Journey's End is really apt this year because it's the 100th anniversary of the start of World War One. So we think there's a massive market for it. And World War One films have done quite well in the past as well. War Horse is a great example. It grossed 177 million approximately. But there's a massive thing that we couldn't really show it in Europe because Europe doesn't have that much of a love for World War One films. I mean, The Red Baron, which was made 2008, they put loads of money into it, but because it was released mostly in Europe, there just wasn't an audience for it because there's a lot of, for some reason, there's still war guilt in a lot of countries.
Okay, so these are the films that kind of inspired us to adapt it. The first one is Stanley Kubrick's Doctor Strangelove, and that's a black comedy about nuclear bomb scare and the nuclear apocalypse. And it's just basically because Kubrick uses a use of type close-up shots, which we wanted to incorporate into our film. And it changes from the normal close-up to the angle close-ups really quickly, and it kind of creates power within it, which is what we wanted to put in. And it uses artificial lighting to illuminate faces with the background having minimum light, which emphasises it, which is what we did in the end, which you'll see. And then we had The Birth of a Nation, which is evidently where all these close-ups came from and close-ups were invented. Yep. Oh, and we've got Zulu as well, which was also inspired by the other films to do close-ups and more shots and great emphasis without actually having to view any action, just the emotion in the faces. Too much stuff.
Right.
Do you want to talk about this, Josh?
Yeah, for production, when we first went shooting, the rushes that we logged came out to be really orange, because we used Harry's hot headlights. When we were in post and editing it, we had two options of either going black or white, or actually doing what we did in the end, which was just colour correcting. We chose to correct the colours because the black and white was just like, it made it look, in my opinion, quite amateur, and there was no effort gone into it. The colour correcting it also just washes it out, but it makes it look like it's been remastered, which is like the modern application thing that we're going for.
The original footage wasn't intentionally supposed to be this orange. We did want some orange in it. But, trying to get it more like a sepia tone. Is that how you pronounce it?
And in the final film, the colour correction makes it, in my opinion, look individual, because it looks like it's been taken from a film that was shot like that wouldn't have used colour, and it's been like remastered and recoloured. The main problem we had was a lack of space. It was really shot in JP's garage, and it was the worst place to be. And we also only had the actors for like 2.5-3 hours, which made it quite like rushed. We also tried to get some like cutaway shots the day after, but nothing. There was nothing really that was available that would look like a World War One.
Yeah, and we sort of, well, we were a bit schizophrenic with our shots, and we didn't hold onto shots long enough, so we ended up having to cut to a different shot every time as someone says something, and it kind of makes the film a bit jarring. At least now, you know, if we do it again, it changes. Takes something a little bit.
Thought you were asleep. I just wanted a word with you, son. It's this neuralgia of mine. I can't stand it any longer.
I know, it's bloody awful. I've had it for weeks.
What?
Aches all day and night.
I'm sorry, Stanhope, but I must go.
I won't get sent back. The Bosch are planning an attack. You have to stay here and see it through with the rest of us.
I can't. I have to go. I'll die of the pain if I don't go.
Better to die of pain than to be shot for desertion.
What do you mean?
Good God, man, don't you understand?
Let me go.
You're staying here. Oh! You really little swine. You know what that means? Striking a superior?
Yeah, and that's it.
Oh, you missed the fun.
Oh yeah, okay. We won't go over that, but we took inspiration from some of the films as well. This is our poster.
I may have missed out some advertising somewhere, but we're planning on a sort of a November film release because
Oh yeah.
I did forget about that. Well, basically because we thought that our film it starts off. What are you doing?
I don't know.
It takes quite a dark twist, and we thought we'd match up to the time of year because instead of leaving cinema and everything's sunny, you're going to go out for a barbecue, go out, it's rainy, it's miserable. And with them, we can market in front of lots of other war films coming out in the year. Like, there's going to be a remake of All Quiet on the Western Front coming out, which is, seems weird, but it's essentially the German version of our film. It's about a group of school friends who go out to war and then just get completely changed by it. And also, Unbroken, it's a story of an Olympic runner, Sam Cream, who gets taken as a POW in World War II. Yeah, let's just say it's what it is.
Yeah, well that's it. We took inspiration. We saw some inspiration and it sort of challenged us to what war film, challenged our idea of what war film could be. And it was mostly from this video. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's pretty popular. It's from
Happy birthday to you. Granny.
Ready or not?
Here it comes!
Army clashes with British.
Airstrikes on level position.
We are going to stay.
Yeah, that's great.
That's a downer.
Oh, that was some good feel of that.
Grand. Okay, so thoughts, comments, questions?
That is Callum. You're a time traveller, that's insane.
That's my word, it is.
That's Callum.
Okay, thoughts, comments, and questions.
But we really like
Very
it.
nice. Yeah, it came out better than. There was a moment where things looked pretty desperate, but it came out better than I think we all expected. It's still got a few problems, but yeah, we all worked together. And just,
What could have made your edit go smoother?
I think cutting down the dialogue. Originally, the dialogue, the film was about a minute and a half. It was about 40-50 seconds. I cut out a lot of dialogue, especially from Elliot, because I don't know, he wasn't very on the ball on that day. Exactly, delivery was quite stiff. I don't know if you noticed there's a certain moment where Elliot starts to speak, cuts back to Curtis, the other actor, and then back to Elliot briefly. But I cut away so I could cut out like half of his dialogue in the middle because it just didn't flow and it just didn't feel right. And I know that cut was abrupt, but it worked better that way. And I think that helped, just cutting everything down and being really brutal.
So what did everyone think of the edit in particular?
Did it break the 180 degree?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a couple of times.
I think that's because, in the edit we've flipped some of the shots.
Yeah.
Some of the shots are flipped just to make it work. It did keep on 180 degrees.
I think
No,
the
we broke
the
it.
biggest thing that you need to learn for next time, and I think this would have made your whole lives a lot easier. And I know you were filming in a very, very tight space, but if you'd filmed all of it as a wide, a medium wide, a medium as wide as you could get in the space you had, just from start to finish, you've then got a safety net. You can almost use that as the base of your edit, and then you can leave that for your cutaways and your close shots. And
You
your
were so
reverse.
stuck for time.
Yeah, we didn't
Yeah.
even. We wanted to shoot continuity, so for the sake of our own sanity, but we couldn't even do that. We had to film all of Elliot's lines on his own because he needed to go very, very quickly. So instead of rushing through his lines and then Curtis's lines, we just went through all of Elliot's lines at once. And obviously that was a mistake, but yeah, we probably could have found a way around that. But we didn't.
I think it looks amazing. I think with the costumes, I think with JP, what you've managed to do with the domestic garage is fantastic. You may not have noticed there are actually bicycles hanging up in the back of the shop there, and it's all just totally, it works. I think it's a really good location, and the grading, the colour looks fantastic.
Yeah, there's some moments where something goes a bit purple, but it's
Working with the 550s, I think you've recovered kind of what you can from it. So
I think for all the state you gave yourselves, especially Harry, you've done such a good job. Like I haven't seen it, but I know that you're quite hard on yourself, and it's just really, really good. I wasn't expecting that. It's really tells a story.
what about the marketing plans?
Very in depth.
Yeah, what I'm not.
social media, what's that's our main target.
Are you going to buy it?
Yeah.
Do you run that site, Harry?
And the publicity with the sort of recreation of the trenches in local parks, and then the sort of march. Did you mention that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
We're going to go for normal, just like trailers as well.
Yeah.
It's cynical, but I think we'll probably see an awful lot worse than that this year. But in the centenary year, it'd be possible, I think, to do an awful lot of tie-ins with historical reenactment, offering people a chance to experience those things. A really cynical part of me was actually there thinking that for a premiere, for example, instead of a red carpet, you could have people going through a kind of a mock-up of a trench. I mean, obviously no gangrene or rats, but in terms of the structure of it, it's a gimmick, but it would potentially kind of get a lot of press.
Where did you get the costumes?
From my mum.
It just so happened that at the time what was the play that did it?
Accrington Palace.
Accrington Palace. It's about the town of Acton, World War One. Just so happened the drama students were doing a version of that, so luckily we got to steal some of the stuff from it.
That's what, like, I think the location and the costumes and the outfits, they sort of really come together. I know Baxter was a bit dodgy, but Curtis, he was really on the ball. He was totally familiar with the script. And I think his performance was the best bit of that film.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Anything else we can say about Journey's End? All right. Okay. So thank you very much for that. Let's just stop that.